Thank you, Senator Gillibrand. Senator Cotton, please.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Maier, you acknowledge in your opening statement that the shift away from counterterrorism is the primary role of our nation's special operations forces. But far from decreasing the need for those forces, I'd suggest that the current threat environment calls for even more capability. They need to continue our counterterrorism missions, support foreign internal defense activities to bolster allies, and engage in new types of operations that are going to counter Chinese and Russian aggression. In that operating environment, would a decrease in force size or budget seem like a reasonable step to you?
So, Senator Cotton, thanks for the question. Yeah, this is the crux of the challenge, right? We're being asked to do more, and our force is probably static. So I would not advocate for a reduction in forces, sir.
I regret that you're here today and not 48 hours from now when we're going to get the President's budget, because I am troubled that you may, in fact, get a reduction in budget or forces. Do you have any thoughts on what we're going to see on Thursday?
Senator, as I think you know, I can't talk to what's likely to be in the budget, but I think, as General Fenton and I both said, the priorities that we have identified are represented in that budget, sir.
Okay. Well, if my fears are proven out, I think you can count on many members of this committee, probably in both parties, to try to make sure that our special operations forces have the resources they need. General Fenton, do you agree that SOCOM's requirements and your relevance are growing in this threat environment, not decreasing?
Senator, I would agree with that. I think the SOCOM requirements to be in campaigning and competition are absolutely important and exceedingly asked for by combatant command teams, where I draw my requirements from, certainly in line with their Theater Special Ops Command, the TSOCs. But we see it because much of this begins with partnerships that we forge through the SOCOM team and enable. And the payoff in many ways can be looked at in the vicinity of Ukraine.
So a decrease in either your budget or your personnel levels would add risk to your mission and therefore to our nation?
Well, Senator, no one wants to see a decrease in personnel or the budget. I would tell you that I think it would not reflect the requirements, number one, a decrease of that. And number two, we would be forced at some point to make hard choices, because each and every time I think you'll see me give you the best Special Operations Command for the budget we get.
Okay. Mr. Maier, when we're talking about your personnel, I want to return to something else you had in your opening statement, because I want to make sure we're using this personnel budget the right way. You talked about the need for more staff. I got to tell you, that gets my hackles up pretty quickly. I think we have plenty of staff in the Pentagon, way too much. Frankly, I think we have too many people dressed like you and me and not enough people dressed like the men to your right and your left performing these jobs. Could you explain a little bit more about what kind of staff you're talking about and why you would need more staff?
So, Senator, I was referring specifically to the Special Operations Low-Intensity Conflict staff that performs the Title 10 responsibility of the Organized, Train, Equip for SOCOM. So frankly, sir, a lot of what these staff do on a daily basis is try to articulate the soft value proposition back into the department with the services. Some of my concern is that as we go from the less intense environment of counterterrorism, or go towards a less intense environment without the intense focus on counterterrorism, that some of what SOF has traditionally been afforded will be lost in that. So sometimes this is just as simple as making sure that we have the soft value proposition represented in resourcing, training, planning. I've been frankly surprised at times of how that has been forgotten or too narrowly defined as being a counterterrorism problem. So, my 40-some-odd staff are very much in that business, and it's the analytics, it's supporting special programs, other things like that are very, I think, akin to the soft value proposition, but don't have representation often within the broader department, sir.
Okay. General Fenton, one final question. In your opening statement, you talked about the strategic transition for the Special Operation Forces. Could you explain a little more about the role that your forces, Special Operations Forces, are going to be expected to play in the future fight? And if so, if you can, at an unclassified level, maybe help share that story?
Senator, thank you for that. I'll focus on integrated deterrence and where the Secretary and the Department have asked us to be aligned. And when I think about that, I think about it along three lenses: prevent, prepare, and then prevail. I think on the prevention side, it's all about being forward. It's about being deployed. Our skills, cultural understanding, language, and a familiarity with many of these environments that come from organizations in our enterprise that know those places well, such as our 1st Special Forces Group in Indo-Pacific, for instance, have a very deep familiarity with all things that go on in many of the partner nations. I think it's key to keep that certainly thick and strengthened. So part of it is being out, training, advising, assisting, building capabilities, and using many of the tools this committee gives us in the form of security cooperation, 1202, and counterterrorism tools. That's a very key part. I think it also allows us an opportunity to help the joint force and enable them as we're out in those environments and are able to prepare through our understanding of everything from seabed all the way to space domain, and then work in concert with General Nakasone and Jim Dickinson and a soft space cyber triad. I think those are all very important. There is an acceleration towards that. It began before, certainly under General Rich Clark, and we're accelerating that in the Special Operations team while we stay vigilant on the counterterror mission and certainly our crisis response duties as directed by the Secretary.
Thank you, gentlemen.